This is an interview at the Anchor Down Motel, Ogdensburg, New York, 25th of April 2003, approximately 10 a.m. Interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
Harold Clarence Rabideau. I was born on October 11th, 1922, Plattsburgh, New York.
Okay. What was your educational background prior to entering military service?
High school.
Okay. Do you remember where you were and your reaction when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I was on my way to work at Messina, Alcoa, Messina, and I heard it on the car radio. And from the time I heard it till I got to Messina, I decided to enlist in the Air Force.
Why did you select the Air Force?
I wanted to fly
Had you ever flown before?
a few times.
Okay. So I noticed you enlisted basically 20 days after Pearl Harbor.
And that is correct.
Where did you enlist?
I enlisted in, signed up at the post office building in Malone, and from there they moved us to Albany, and we were sworn in at Albany the day after Christmas.
Okay. Where did you go for your training, for boot camp?
I started boot camp, or actually basic training in Jefferson Barracks, Missouri, but I was inducted into Fort Dix, New Jersey first, and then I went into, from Fort Dix, they sent me to Jefferson Barracks for basic training.
Was this your first time away from home, or?
Yes, it was my first time away from home.
How did you feel about that?
Tearful separation. Very tearful separation. Being right near Christmas.
Yes. Could you tell us about your training and where you went for your different training?
Yes, I had quite a bit of technical schools training. The first tech school I went to was Embry-Riddle School of Aviation for electrician, aircraft electrician. All the time I had signed up for air cadets. So they kept me in the States and shipping me around to different technical schools. And I went to Annapolis, where they trained for electrical turret specialists. And then I took another test for officers training and passed that, so they held me back again. And finally the cadet training came through, and they shipped me out to San Antonio, Texas for basic training on air cadets. And there was an extensive training there. It was like in the Army Academy. Kind of rough. And I was, I don't know what you'd say, fortunate or unfortunate to be filtered out. And I got myself involved with the captain of the flying school, and I was told I was never going to graduate, so from there I decided that I still wanted to fly, and there was other positions on planes like bomber, air or gunner and such. So I wound up a ball gunner on a B-24 in the 8th Air Force. I was shot down on March 8th, 1944.
Well, where did you pick up your crew and your plane and so on?
Oh, after they released me from cadets, I went to Wichita Falls, Texas. And from there, they sent me to Tonopah, Nevada to join my crew. And from there, and I joined them in the last phase of training. But I had done a lot of flying, and I had a good background in arms and fire control, etc.
Now, were you the upper or lower ball turret?
I was a lower ball turret.
Lower.
And it worked out pretty good. I joined the crew number 66, and well, it wasn't 66 then, but it was in Tonopah. I joined them, and when we went overseas, we were known as Crew 66. And the first mission we flew.
Well, I gotta take it back a second. Where did you pick your plane up? Did you pick a plane up and fly across? Or
No,
did you,
no.
oh, you went across?
I went across by in a C-54,
Huh.
4-engine
Oh, really?
commercial, yeah. And that was another little follow-up. What they did is they shipped us, we flew to Miami from staging area. They took the plane away from us, gave it to somebody else, and shipped us up to New York. And there was, I was with my crew, and when they shipped the crew out, they didn't call my name. My name wasn't on the list. And I was just sitting in a hotel there waiting, so finally I went down and asked them what the problem was. You know, my crew is gone. Well, they had some follow-up in my name and my serial number, and finally got that straightened out. And then they put me on the first plane over, and I met my crew over there in England, at Horsham St. Faith.
Now, did they go over by boat, or did they fly also?
Fly. And so I was all alone, and I was with a bunch of other GIs and officers I didn't know. And when I got over to England, I landed at Prestwick, Scotland, and they trained us into London. And from there I went out to Horsham St. Faith base. That was an old RAF cadet base. They converted it into the headquarters for the 458 Bomb Group, which I was a member. 458 Bomb Group, 755th Squadron, Crew 66.
Okay. Did you use the same B-24 all the time, or did you alternate between
No,
planes?
we never had assigned a specific B-24. It was short of planes, so when one crew stood down, the other crew flew. And so we flew somebody else's plane on the first mission, and of course, second mission I was shot down. So we never flew the same plane.
Did you ever decorate your jacket or anything like that?
Oh yeah, we had different, I still got the emblems of the 458 and the 750th Squadron, and you know, the shoulder patches.
Now, did you, being the lower ball turret gunner, did you wear a flak jacket in there, or could you not?
No, couldn't wear a flak
fit one
jacket.
in there.
Had no protection at all.
Yeah, and you had no parachute either, right?
Right, we just had a harness on. And in that ball turret, once you were down, and you were at the mercy of the guys flying with you to let you know when to come up, and etc. So it was a kind of a scary place to be. Of course, at 19, you didn't worry about that. You thought you were going to lick the world, you know. But anyway, it turned out that when we got shot down, everybody left that could leave. And I was still in my position. And all of a sudden, I started checking the engines. They're all afire, all four engines are firing. I decided we're going down. And I looked down and saw all the pine trees right close. And I said, I better get the hell out of here. And I was down in my operational position. To this day, I don't know how I got out.
Somebody would have had to have raised you up out of there? Or?
Didn't. They're all gone. I don't know. Right this day, I can't tell you how I got out of there. And when I got up, the whole plane was a ball of fire, and I didn't have a chute on. And another strange thing that has always bothered me, where my chute was, my snap-on chute, that snaps onto the harness,
Uh-huh.
there was fire all around it, and that chute wasn't burning. I grabbed it, stamped it on, realized I had it on upside down. Just no time to wait, I had to get out. The only place I could get out was a waste window of B-24, and they tell you never to go out there because of the vertical stabilizer, you get caught on it. But I finally got out, and I pulled the whip forward and bang, hit the ground. And when I did, there was a whole bunch of people with pitchforks and clubs and guns. And
Now, where were you, in Germany?
Yeah, we're just,
Where was your mission that?
I don't remember the name.
Mhm.
If it was mentioned, I could probably
Mhm.
recall it, but we were hitting a ball bearing factory just outside of Berlin. And it was just prior to the IP, the initial point where you go in to drop your bombs. And the pilot called and said he couldn't keep up with the loss of supercharger or something. And that's the last I heard from him. And he was killed in action.
Now, was your plane hit by flak or machine gun fire, or
Just
what's it
about
on?
everything. Fighters, guys. As soon as we fell out of formation, we couldn't stay up in formation. And as soon as we fell out of formation, we got wrecked with everything. You name it.
So you were captured by civilians then?
No, I surrendered to Luftwaffe.
Mhm.
There was a Luftwaffe officer in the crowd, and I surrendered to him. This was told to us prior to the mission. You know, if you ever went down, you had to surrender. Make sure you get a Luftwaffe guy to surrender to, because they weren't quite as harsh. You know. So I
Now,
was
what was the date when you were shot down? Do you recall?
March 8th, 1944.
Okay. So after you surrendered to this officer, what happened?
Oh, they brought me into a small town, and they had a jail there, and they put me in the jail. And come in and interviewed me and tried to debrief me. And I couldn't have told him anything anyway. I didn't know anything.
It was only your second mission, right?
Yeah, second mission. So I just told my Army serial number, my rank serial number. And then they shipped us off to a center for interrogation. Where they had a big center someplace, I don't know where it was. Because And they kept after us.
Now, how many, were there other Americans with you then?
No, well, I never mixed with any other Americans.
Mhm.
They always kept us in a single cell.
But there were other Americans with you.
There was Americans at the place, at the location, yes.
Now, did any of the rest of your crew, do you know what happened to them at all?
I got to recall here a little bit.
Sure.
I ran into one of my waist gunners. I think at the interrogation center. And he looked startled. What are you doing here? How did you get out? Questions like that, and I really don't know. I really didn't know how the hell I got out. The ship didn't blow up because it landed and I saw it blow up. Just not too far from where I
So you were pretty close to the ground once you opened
Yeah.
the chute.
So when the chute opened, I counted to 10, pulled the ripcord and hit the ground. Didn't have much time to. I was really close. So I assumed I was the last one out. And it turned out after getting together with the crew probably I was the last one out. So we lost, out of the 10 on the crew, we lost 5 KIA. And that was pilot, navigator, bombardier, tail gunner. Like the rest, the other 5 got out.
What about the radio operator?
He got out.
And you eventually ran into the rest of them in camp, or did you hear about them after the war?
I didn't run into him in, I was in Stalag, the first place they put me was in Stalag 6. And that was half American and half British Air Force types. I got, when the Russians started to come in, they moved us to a new camp, Stalag 4. And, geez, I can't remember the name of the town there, but and
How were you transferred from 6 to 4?
in irons, in the belly of a coal carrier ship, no water, nothing to eat.
Oh, they moved you by ship?
Yeah, they put us up in the, we was up in the Stettin area. So I think it was Stettin where they had the ship, and they marched us there and they put us in the ship, and then that was hell. Unbelievable.
How long were you in the ship?
We sat there about 3 or 4 days, nights, and no place to go to the bathroom, nothing to eat, nothing to drink. And some of them didn't make it, some did, you know. And then it was rough. It was really bad. You know, guys dying and they choked to death. They couldn't, nowhere, you know, bodies on bodies. And from there, the ship went to another harbor someplace in the Baltic, and from there they transferred us, put us all in leg irons and arm irons, and put us in boxcars. They had police dogs on us all the time. And there was tempers flaring and people getting shot, and it was another hellhole. And I was handcuffed with leg irons and arm irons to my radio operator. He was a little guy, kind of frail. And when they moved us to Stalag 4, from the train depot to Stalag 4, they made us run. And the captain, the German captain, the commandant, was a mean. He lost his family in a bombing raid, and he hated us. And we're running along, and my radio operator falls down, like passed out. And I just dragged him. I just kept dragging him, because if he fell out, they'd shoot you. And I just dragged him. Finally, he come to, and we got up, and we made it. And then one another episode I remember very vividly was, everybody probably knows, umpire Donatelli was with the National League. He was in the room stripped, and one guy we called Big Stoop was pounding the shit out of him because he had a rosary around his neck. There's nothing you can do. Just watch him. I'll always remember that smile he had on his face. Like, don't bother, don't hurt, you know. And it's pretty tough. It's not to help. Not being able to help.
What was the food like in these stalags?
It was watered cabbage, potatoes, and they'd bring the food in the same wagon that they cleaned the trains with. They had Russians that were doing that kind of work. And they'd come in, clean out the trains, bring in a load of food. And it's something you can't forget.
Now, you were in some sort of barracks in the prison camp?
Yeah, they had, in the camps that I were in, they had huts like.
Uh-huh. Were they right on the ground, or were
Yeah.
they on stilts?
No, they're on the ground.
Uh-huh.
In some cases they're on the ground, thank you. Some cases they're on the ground, in some cases they're on stilts, depending where you were. It was
What about, did you have any kind of heat in the barracks at all?
At first we had a ration of coal in Stalag 6, a ration of coal for each barracks. Never sufficient to heat it. And you just keep it warm enough so you wouldn't freeze to death, really. And then those little, we had the little round stoves, like pots they use for protecting crops, you know, here in the country. And we all had to cook on that. And what we had was, in Stalag 6, we finally got some Red Cross food.
I was going to ask about Red Cross, if you received any Red Cross packages.
Oh yeah, and that was what saved our lives. The Red Cross saved our lives, really. There was no way we could have lived on what they were giving us. But the disadvantage of it was, we always used to kid them. They always thought it was a B-17 or a B-24 inside of a can of tuna fish, and they'd open it. And they'd cut the cigarettes in half, punch holes and everything. So, you know, you couldn't keep it very long. You had, and I know the camp leaders tried numerous times to get them to hold back the packages and don't puncture them, and we, you know, give it to us gradually. Never worked. They just once a week you might get something, and maybe once a month, depending on, you know, when they come in. And but the guards and all them around the camp really looked good. They must have been eating some of those packages, you know, because they didn't have anything very good either.
Now, were the guards older men, or were they younger, or?
Well, they were old men, you know, they couldn't put up at the front. Some were jolly, others are afraid to be jolly, I guess. And so during these moves from Stalag 6 to Stalag 4 and then Stalag 1, in Stalag 1 I met Colonel Zemke, Gabreski, and the Lieutenant Colonel Green. He was a troublemaker all the time. He kept those Germans in. He's a troublemaker. He turned out to be, after the war, a painter. In that prison camp, that's what he did. when you can get the things to paint, you know, or material to use. And then afterward, a few years after I got out of service, I saw his name on a painting someplace.
Did anybody ever try to escape, or?
Oh yeah. Not at our camp. Well, we tried to escape at our camp. Everybody was digging holes. But they finally got it under control where they had an escape group that was organized and they tried to tunnel out. At one of the camps, I think it was Stalag 17 if I remember, they did tunnel out. And it's all in the history books, stories of what happened. And they finally shot them all one way or another. Those that they captured, they took about one night and shot them. And their excuse was, of course, that they were trying to escape. Well, they had them under control. They didn't. So that went on all through the time I was in prison camp. There's always somebody trying to get out. And some did make it. Not too many, but some did make it.
So you were transferred also to Stalag 1?
From 4, when the Russians started coming in, I was one of the fortunate ones in this case. Half of the crew was on that death march, you know, the march after they just kept marching all through the winter. And I was, for some reason or other, half of us went to Stalag 1. They must have had room there for so many. And I was in that group that went to Stalag 1. And there I met my co-pilot. He was at Stalag 1.
Must have been a nice reunion to see a familiar face.
Yeah, a few tears and, you know, a lot of stories. And
How were you moved from 4 to 1?
by train,
Train?
boxcars. They had managed to park us in the marshalling yards. Wherever it stopped, they put it right in the marshalling yards. And of course, our planes were hitting those marshalling yards all the time. And one of the marshalling yards was bombed while I was there, and I forget whether they hit the front of the train or the back of the train. Some of the men were killed by bombs, by own bombs.
Were you, how were you liberated? You were at Stalag 1 when you were liberated?
It's Stalag 1 when the war was over. They woke up in the morning, everybody was gone. And of course everybody went out and started searching for food.
How long did it take before the Americans showed up?
It was a week or two.
Oh, really?
We had quite a tussle with the Russians, and of course the higher officers that was at command, so they took over, and the Russians wanted to put us back, ship us back through Russia, and never knew the reason until after the war was over, why they wanted to do that. They wanted to keep us there for bargaining chips.
The Russians did.
This all came out after the war. And we had contact with the Americans and British all along. They'd come up to the camp and try to get us released. And finally, I don't know what Eisenhower, I think it was Eisenhower that said, told them that if you don't release them, we pay the consequences. So they released us and they brought us out in B-17s, stripped down B-17s. They come in at the airport at Barth.
Now, were the Russians actually holding you as a prisoner?
No, they were just, they didn't say they were holding us as prisoners. They were just holding us till the legal papers was taken care of and everything so they could release them. This was what their story was.
How long were the Russians in charge of the camp? Or how long were they there?
They were there the very next morning.
So you were under the Russians basically for about 2 weeks or so?
Yes.
Was the food any better under the Russians, or?
I don't know how the hell they lived. I know I was out searching for some food and walked around in shrubs, a bunch of shrubs, and looking for chickens or whatever we could find, you know. And I come in contact with a Russian patrol, and they're in one of our GI trucks. The windshield all shot out. Guys all bandaged up and eating out of a can. And they grabbed me and hugged me and said, "Comrade, comrade." And I looked at the stuff they were eating. It was green, molded. And they handed me a can and told me to eat it. And I said, "Geez, I didn't want it." I shook my head. Man, they jammed it into my stomach. Good, you know. So I took it and walked around the bush, and as hungry as I was, I threw it away. I figured if I'd eaten it, I would have never lived.
So you were able to wander outside the camp during the day and come back at night
Yeah.
to sleep.
And that's when I saw a lot of the atrocities they committed. Babies in carriages shot. The mother shot by the carriage
This by the Russians, you think? Or?
outside the camp. And it tough.
So you were flown by B-17. Where did
Camp
you go?
Lucky Strike.
Uh-huh.
And,
Were you hospitalized there? Or
yeah, we all got dysentery.
how much weight had you lost?
I weighed about 85 pounds.
Wow.
I was normally about 135, 140.
When did you return to the United States?
It was in the summertime. From Camp Lucky Strike, they brought us, the American forces brought us to Le Havre, and we got on a hospital ship at Le Havre, and they brought us into Fort Patrick Henry, and from there they give us a furlough for 30 days. And from there, after the furlough, we come back to Atlantic City, New Jersey, and they had hotels there that they put us up for R&R. And then we were discharged from Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Now, I noticed you won the Purple Heart. Where did you receive that?
I got wounded in the attack. I got some cut over my left eye. I got a shrapnel in my back.
Did you get any kind of medical treatment by the Germans?
No, you had to be very, very bad in order to get treatment. We had one guy that was with us. His left arm started to shrink, and it shrunk right down to hardly anything. When they got him back Camp Lucky Strike, they found a 50 caliber machine gun shell between his shoulder blades. And, you didn't hear too many complaints from the boys. they all put up with it. You could see some real bad cases, you know. But they did have a hospital at each Stalag, but you know, you had to be real bad to go in the hospital. You had to be almost dragged in, you know. If you walked in, you were good enough to survive. So.
When you returned home, did you ever make use of the GI Bill?
Yes, I did. I went to RTI in New York, and from RTI I went right to work with RCA.
Did you ever use the 5220 Club?
A little while, I think I did, a couple of weeks, a week or two, where they give you $20 a week.
Yeah, for 52. Did you join any veterans organizations?
Yes, I belong to the Northern New York chapter of XPOWs. I was commander for a couple of years. I'm now vice commander. I joined the Legion, which I became vice commander. And I joined the overseas veterans group.
Did you ever join the 8th Air Force organization at all?
Pardon me?
You ever join the 8th Air Force Society?
Oh, I belong to the 8th Air Force Society.
Did you keep in contact with anyone that you served with?
Not what I served with. I kept periodic contact with one of the boys that I was in prison camp with. And the last time I seen him was about 8 years ago. And he lives in Florida. Became very ill. I understand he had to have bypass surgery, and I don't know how he's doing yet. I don't know if he's still around, really.
Did you ever go to any reunions or anything? Or?
Yes, I went to the 458 Bomb Group reunion in Dayton, Ohio, and where we dedicated the 458th at the Air Force Museum. I met some of the old people I served with. And that's the only one I'm active in now is XPOWs. You know, as time goes on, you kind of slow down.
How would you say your service affected or changed your life?
Drastically. When I bailed out of that airplane, I was 19 years old. When I hit the ground, I was 50. That was a very short order. It completely changed the way I look at different circumstances, the way I feel about people. It seemed like a lifetime in a POW camp. It seemed like I transferred from a happy, joyful life to a life of misery. And I haven't been able to get out of that misery. Just can't get out of it. I always thought when I first got out I wouldn't contact anybody, I'd forget everything. It never goes away.
Well, thank you very much for the interview.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.